Hello, students, and a very warm welcome to your civics class. And today we will be learning the first lesson, which is the introduction to the parliamentary system. So, let's quickly get our book, our textbook. If you don't have the textbook, you can use the PDF version. Take a book or a pencil or a pen to make some notes. And let's begin with this lesson, Introduction to the Parliamentary System. System of the government. Have you thought of these few questions? Let us begin with the first one. What is a parliamentary system of government? Students, a parliament is a type of legislature. Now, some of you might be wondering what is legislature? Now, legislature is a word that comes from the Latin language, meaning those who write the laws. LAWS, those who write the laws. So, the legislature of a state or a country is a group of people, each of whom got his or her office, either it is by voting, election, or by appointment. And the way a legislature is supposed to work can usually be found in the constitution of that state or of that country. So India has its own constitution, United Kingdom has their own constitution. Now the question is, what is a parliament? So as I said, parliament is a type of legislature. The most famous parliament is probably the one in the United Kingdom, which is sometimes called the mother of all parliaments. Now, just another information, the word parliament comes from the French word parler, which means a talk. So, a lot of discussion takes place in a parliament. Okay, and so what basically is a parliamentary system? A parliamentary system of government, that the executive branch of government, executor means the one who executes the law, has the direct or indirect support of the parliament. Now this support is usually shown by vote of confidence. The relationship between the executive, the one who executes the laws, and the legislature, one who makes the law, in a parliamentary system is called a responsible government. So these are some of the basic information as to what a parliamentary system is. If you look at the second question, in India we have Prime Minister, but why is there no Prime Minister in the United States of America? Well, in India you have Prime Minister, that is Mr. Narendra Modi. Do you know who is the President of India? Find out. And who's the President of United States of America? It is Mr. Donald Trump. So the reason why India has Prime Minister and President, and in America you just have a president, is because in America they have a presidential system of government. So that is a different type of a government. So in India we have Prime Minister who takes the main decision, and in America it is the president who takes the decision. They don't have a prime minister in America because it is a presidential type of government. Now, what is the difference between a parliamentary system and the presidential system? Well, the major difference between these two systems is that in a presidential system like the one in the United States of America, the president is directly voted upon by the people. The people are directly voting Donald Trump, and he is answerable, or the president is answerable to the voters rather than the legislature. Whereas in a parliamentary system, the legislature holds supreme power. Legislature is the one who makes the laws, and in a parliamentary system you have the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. So if you notice that we directly don't vote directly for Narendra Modi. It is all depending upon the number of votes you get for a particular party, and then the government gets formed, and then you get a prime minister. Whereas in America, either there will be Donald Trump standing, and against him was Hillary Clinton. So people had to choose whether to vote Donald Trump or directly Hillary Clinton. So there's a major difference between them. If we go further with this chapter, and we will learn more about our parliamentary system according to the Indian Constitution. The function of the legislature is to make laws. The executive implements the law and the judiciary provides justice. So, the function of these organs, their jurisdiction and limitations on their power, and the interrelationship between these organs are decided by the Constitution. It is the nature of their interrelationship that determines the system of government adopted in a particular country. There are two main types of government system that are followed. One is the parliamentary system and second is the presidential system. The parliamentary system of government. Then let us find out where did this parliamentary system of government come from. Now, the parliamentary system of government developed primarily in England. So, let me tell you that British were the only people, natives, that went on making colonies around the world. Even United States of America was a colony of British. South Africa was the colony of British. India is a colony of British. So, British, say England is a very old country which already had their own way of functioning and had their system of government. So, the parliamentary system of government developed primarily in England. The England constitution is an unwritten constitution. In India, we have a written constitution, the largest constitution. The England is an unwritten constitution. The governance is carried out in accordance with traditions and customs and conventions. The British Parliament is an institution that has evolved over a period of time. The parliamentary system of government, having its roots in parliament, remember I told you the word parliament is coming from the French word parler, to talk, is considered as a contribution of England. India has adopted the parliamentary system of the British of England. So we can see some similarities between the parliamentary system of England and the parliamentary system of India. But if you look at it at an institutional level, if you go down to the institution and see how exactly the Indian parliamentary system works, let me tell you that it is very different in its content. Like in the earlier slide, I just mentioned that the parliamentary of the British government goes more on traditions and conventions and it's an unwritten constitution, but in India it works in a very different manner, and we will be seeing some of the features or characteristics of Indian parliamentary system in the government of India. The parliamentary system is a system of governance. Now, what is the governance? The governance is the action or manner of governing a state, how you govern it. So, the parliamentary system is a system of governance. The legislature, the one that makes law, remember, the legislature of the central government is known as the parliament. You have a central government and state government. We have one CM here in Maharashtra. There is a CM in Goa. There will be a CM in Uttar Pradesh. So you have different states. I am talking about the central government, okay, the main authority. So the parliamentary system is a system of governance. The legislature of the central government is known as the parliament. Now the Indian parliament is composed of president, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. This is your first characteristic or the first feature. Now the second one, members of Lok Sabha are directly elected by people. So we just had elections, okay, and people vote for the Lok Sabha. The number of members in the house is fixed. That is your second feature. Now look at the third one. Elections to the Lok Sabha are held at regular intervals. In India, it's every 5 years. We have Lok Sabha election. All political parties contest these elections. So you have different parties. Think of some names of some parties. Do you remember them? Yes. So all political parties contest these elections. The party which gets more than half of the seats Remember, the number of seats or the number of members in the house is fixed. So the party which gets more than half of the seats is considered as a majority party, and that majority party forms the government. Now, the next characteristic, the next feature, sometimes, when no party gets a clear majority, so it's not more than half by a particular party, so no party is getting a clear majority. Some parties come together, my party, your party, their party, come together to form a majority, and then they can establish the government, and this kind of government is known as a coalition government. Now you find out the current government in India, is it won by the majority or it is a coalition government? So, and in this way, the last feature, candidates directly elected by people become members of the legislature, and the party in majority gets a chance to form the government. So I hope this makes it clear as to what are the characteristics of our governing system. Once the government is formed, the leader of the majority party becomes the prime minister. So whoever the prime minister is, he or she selects candidates for ministerial positions. You have different positions in the cabinet, and he chooses who will function in that particular ministry from among his or her colleagues. Now, once we have our Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers chosen by the Prime Minister together, they form the executive in the parliamentary system. Remember that executive are the ones who implement the laws. The laws are made by the legislature, and then the executives are the one who will ensure that the law is put to use in the practical form. So, the Prime Minister together forms the executive in the parliamentary system of the government. In parliamentary system, the executive has a dual responsibility. When I say dual, it means two. Like you have nowadays phone with dual SIM card, two SIM cards. Yeah, so the responsibility is dual. There are two responsibility. The first one is, as an executive, they have to implement laws. So if the law has been made, it is them who will ensure that it is being used and people are functioning under the laws. So that is the first responsibility. Second one is, as they are the members of the legislature, so these ministers who are executive and also a part of the legislature that makes law, they also have to fulfill responsibilities of the legislature, which means they have to ensure they have to make proper bills, and then it is passed. So that is how it functions. So the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers is responsible to the legislature of all their actions and policies. So whatever actions and policies have been made, it is them who has to take responsibility. It means that the Council of Ministers has to work with the legislature. So they are doing double role. So they have to work with the legislature. It is for this reason that the parliamentary system is known as responsible system of government. Another distinct characteristic of parliamentary system of government is collective responsibility, which goes to say decision taken by any minister, by any ministry or any department is considered as decision of the government. So if anything fails, tomorrow they cannot blame, okay, it is this ministry who is responsible for it. They have, because of them it has faltered. Or I have done all of this, therefore I should get all the credit and achievements. No. Decision taken by any ministry or department is considered as decision of the government. The entire Council of Ministers is responsible for the decision. Dear students, I have put up the names of our ministers out here, beginning with our Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi. You get to see what are his departments. You also have various other ministers, for example, Shri Rajnath Singh, who is the Minister of Defence, Shri Amit Shah, Minister of Home Affairs, Shri Nitin Jairam Gadkari, Minister of road transport, and Minister of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises. And you can read through the names of these ministers. My dear students, it is very important to know who are our ministers, what are they working for, and what are they working as, because this will make you an informed, responsible citizen. We just don't follow the crowd, and just because everybody else is following something, so I also have to do this. It is not a right practice. It is always good to be a learned person, be informed, find out information, and that's how you will know where you're heading towards. So this screen shows you the Council of Ministers, and go through the names of each and every minister. I've just put few of them. There are many more. Find out who they are. Now, in the parliamentary system, the executives are the people who implement laws. They are dependent upon the confidence of the legislature. This means that the Council of Ministers remains in power till they enjoy the support or confidence of the legislature. If the legislature feels that the executive does not work in accordance to its wishes, it removes the executive from power by passing a no confidence motion against the executive. No confidence motion is an effective tool of keeping a check over the executive. In the parliamentary form of government, the legislature is a supreme institution. Elective representatives of people express demands and aspirations of common people in the parliament. The parliament decides upon issues of public welfare. Since it is the house of representatives of people and expresses sovereign authority of the people, it is considered as the supreme body. Why did India adopt a parliamentary system of government? If we think about it, it is very clear that India, being a colony of the British had governed the country for a very long time. There was a system that was already been put to practice in our country, and that's the reason why that could be one of the reasons that we adopted the British parliamentary system. However, there is much difference, a vast contrast between the contents, because the British parliamentary works on traditions and conventions, whereas we have a very lengthy written constitution. So India adopted the parliamentary system of government for several reasons. The development of parliamentary institutions started during the British rule. The British rulers governed in accordance with this system, that is the parliamentary system. That is how they were governing us. The parliamentary system of government in India is also in a way a product of the freedom movement. So, because they had a parliamentary system, our Indian freedom fighters always used to put their petitions in the parliamentary system, asking for freedom, asking for independence. Then this matter would be discussed in England itself. Remember that our freedom fighters, for example, the father of our nation, went about a couple of times to England as well. We had the round table conference to discuss how it is that the freedom is supposed to be given to our country. So every time our ministers, our freedom fighters would represent India and talk in the parliament as to how India would get its independence. So you see, the parliamentary system of government in India is also in a way a product of the freedom movement. Indians were familiar to this system of government. They know how this system works because they were already in it, discussing, fighting, giving petitions. So many discussions took place in the Constituent Assembly. That is the Constituent Assembly is the assembly who discussed about making the constitution of our country. So the framers of the constitution made few changes in the parliamentary system to suit the Indian situation. We did not take everything from the British, okay? Depending upon how our country is, based on that, they made changes in the parliamentary system. Discussions and deliberations are an integral part of the parliamentary form of government. A lot of discussion takes place there. Sometimes students, you see that a minister might be like dozing off, going off to sleep. It is not their fault. It is the British system where they'll have these lengthy speeches, these long discussions. Now imagine if I keep talking to you in a class for more than 1 hour, you all might be waiting, when is this teacher going to leave the class, right? So that's the reason why in a parliament the lot of discussion used to take place. Discussions and deliberations are an integral part of the parliamentary form of government. Questions related to public welfare are discussed in the legislature. Legislatures are the one who makes the law, and members from the opposition party also take part in these discussions because they need to keep a check if it is being made for the welfare of the country or it is made for the benefit of the people who are ruling. So you can say the opposition party is always called as a watchdog to see right practices are taking place. So opposition parties may support the government wherever appropriate, point out any shortcomings, any weaknesses in policies and laws, and they put up studied arguments and questions so that this can make help the legislature to make proper laws. It is not a one-sided way of making laws. It has taken a holistic view, a 360-degree view to make a law. The parliamentary system of government, we just let us go through some points as to how does a presidential system of government works. The presidential system of government can be said to be another important system of government, and this type of system exists in countries like I said in the beginning of the class, United States of America. They function the presidential system of government. So the system is different from a parliamentary form. How? In this system, the president is the executive and is independent of the legislature, and as the head of the state, the president is directly elected by the people. So the people will vote who has to be their president. Like for example, if Mr. Donald Trump and Miss Hillary Clinton is standing for election for the post of a president, people will directly tick mark whether Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. So such a system is known as a presidential system of government, though the three organs are independent from each other. There are enough connections between them to work in harmony or coordination. Like I said earlier, the United States of America has adopted the presidential system of government. There are some features like how we had some characteristics for the parliamentary system. Here also you have different characteristics or features of the system of the government. In a presidential form of government, the legislature, the one that makes laws, and the executive, that one implements, are not directly dependent on each other. Remember in the parliamentary system how they are dependent on each other. If the executive is not doing very well, there can be a no confidence motion. In this case, they are completely independent. The houses of legislature and the president are directly elected by the people. The president is the executive head and has lot of powers, including power to implement laws. In spite of such a structure, the legislature and the executive keep a check on each other. This mutual control over each other can lead to a responsible government. Therefore, that's how you have a harmony. Although they are independent, but they still have a watch on each other, and that is how they make a responsible government. So, in spite of such a structure, the legislature and the executive keep a check on each other. This mutual control over each other can lead to a responsible government. Apart from the parliamentary and the presidential systems of government, there are other forms of government system as well. You can also Google up and see what is it in France, what is it in Switzerland, and what is it in Germany. There are several countries owing to the unique circumstances. Depending on how that country evolved, you have different systems of government. I hope in this first lesson, the introduction of parliamentary system, you have an idea as to what an executive is, what is the legislature, and you will in due course of time will understand what does the judiciary does, and I hope you are able to understand how a parliamentary system works and a presidential system works. So, thank you, class, for paying attention, and I have given a small homework to be done. Thank you, my dear students, for paying attention to the class. Look up on the internet and find out who your cabinet ministers are. When I say look up, just don't look at their name and their profile. Also see what is their age, how do they look like, where are they from, who's their family. Try to get some more information so you understand under what thought patterns are this country is being governed, and how well is this country being governed. And you will get to learn more once you try to explore. So thank you for your attention and have a wonderful day.